side.
Accentuate the positive.
Always look on the bright side of
one bad movie at a time.
Welcome to Your Movie Rocks, an alternate ending podcast where all movies are great movies.
Are they?
They are. I say, in total sincerity. I'm your host, Mandy Albert, and this month my guest is Zev Burrows. Zev, how you doing?
I am very excited to discuss this month's movie, Mandy, so thank you for having me back.
Fantastic. That's always what we want to hear going into this conversation. In case you are joining us for the first time, a short explanation of how the show works. Every show, my guest assigns me a movie to watch, and we discuss the movie, just like the 10,000 other movie podcasts you listen to, except that there's a catch. No matter what, I am only allowed to say nice things about the movie. My guest can say whatever they want, but me, only nice things. And furthermore, only sincere nice things, not I loved it when the closing credits started. If I have nothing nice to say, I'm lying because every movie does something right. So Zev, tell the fine folks at home a little bit about what we watched this month and why we watched it.
So basically our reigning auteur director here in America, Steven Spielberg, and maybe still king of the box office. I'm unsure whether he's still the highest grossing director of all time or if he's been usurped by somebody else, whether it's the Russo brothers or James Cameron. I forget. But basically, Steven Spielberg, maybe the most famous director name in the history of the American cinema, has a new movie coming out in June called Disclosure Day. Among many, many other things, it marks the 30th collaboration between Spielberg and his longtime music collaborator, composer John Williams, who's won 5 Oscars for Best Score, 1 for Adapted Score, and 4 for Original Score. But that's just getting a little too trivia. But so I thought, wouldn't it be fun to go back and watch a Spielberg movie that I have not seen before. And this was the only major feature that he's directed aside from his brief segment in Twilight Zone the movie that I had not seen. And I still haven't seen Twilight Zone the movie. But I have seen, now having finally watched 1979's 1941, I am, I guess, a Steven Spielberg completionist, which I have many, many thoughts, and I'm actually I'm amazed that I hadn't seen this before, but I'm also very glad that this was the movie that finally made me a Spielberg completionist up to this point, because I feel like Steven, what the fucking shit, is going to be a recurring refrain of mine on this podcast. And I say this with so much love, Mr. Spielberg. I love you so much. We all do. But
he is, of course, one of our most loyal listeners.
I was not prepared for 1941. But Mandy, what did you think of Steven Spielberg's, or can you tell us a little bit about 1979's Steven Spielberg movie, 1941? And also, how much Spielberg would you say you have seen?
Not as much as you. I may be the only person, probably not the only person just because there are a lot of people, but I'm comfortable rounding down to 0, who has now seen 1979's 1941, but has not seen Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I remember this.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know how I feel about that either, but like
by this point, it's a bit. I feel like I can never see Raiders of the Lost Ark now.
I feel like it's a bit too. I feel like you need to. I mean, have you seen the other Indiana Jones films?
Yes, I have seen all of them, including the most recent one. But I have not seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. I have seen Dial of Destiny, and now I have seen 1941, but I have not seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. And again, by this point, it's a bit. But as you no doubt already anticipated, I loved this movie. I was actually going to pass it on to you to see if you could describe this movie's, what's the correct word for it? Is story the correct word for it?
The best way that I can describe it is, and I literally just come up with this, is what if Mel Brooks wrote a screenplay and he co-wrote the screenplay with Tommy Wiseau, and it was directed by Robert Altman.
That sounds like the greatest movie ever. Are you kidding?
And this has a screenplay by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, who very famously have given us many, many great blockbusters of the 1980s and 1990s. And this predates 1984's Romancing the Stone by 4 years. So this was one of their earliest, probably not their first, but one of their earliest gigs, I think. So in the wake of the attack, the 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, a Japanese submarine is targeting has decided to make Hollywood its next target. And very few people are aware of this, basically right up until the very end. And so much shit happens in this movie, and I have no idea how any of it is supposed to be connected. But eventually it all kind of does come together in this big climax, and I'm like, what? And afterwards I'm like, what the hell just happened? So I will pass it back over to you.
Well, in the immediate ending, a guy knocked his house off a hill.
Spoiler alert, yes, a guy did knock his house
This is Your
off.
Movie Rocks. We're full on into spoiler territory. If you don't want spoilers, go watch 1941 and then come back and join us. You have been warned.
Do exactly what I did. Watch the movie and then and then buy the Blu-ray immediately after, because I have no fucking idea how I feel about this.
What I'm hearing is that you also loved this movie very much, which is great because we're going to have such a good conversation about it. You said something almost as a throwaway, but you said something a moment ago that made my heart and my eyes and my soul light up, because up to this point I thought I was the only person who had realized this, because after I watched the movie I of course went and read all kinds of things about it, because I too was trying to figure out my own grand theory of 1941, and I have a lot of things written down in my notes about possible influences on this, or what was Spielberg trying to do, or what does this remind me of? And things that came up, of course, were, Mel Brooks and the Blues Brothers, and It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And then finally, I wrote and underlined twice and circled Robert Altman. This is Steven Spielberg's attempt to be Robert Altman, which is a very interesting thing for Spielberg to attempt to be, because Altman is kind of the anti-Spielberg figure. I know they're not contemporaries and they weren't really responding to each other in any well, I guess they kind of are contemporaries, but they weren't really responding to each other in their films in any meaningful way, but just stylistically, they are kind of at polar opposites in the way that they approach directing movies.
I think that's true, and putting this movie in conversation with Altman, I think, makes perfect sense, because one of the things that Altman is most famous for, and one of the things that he was better at than practically any American filmmaker ever, was dealing with huge ensemble pieces. The way that he weaves in and out of various characters' lives through camera movements, or just by way of stretching his movies like Nashville and Gosford Park and Shortcuts, to 3 hours, to really feel like you're getting so invested in these characters' lives. And it's almost I don't know if it's right to say that Spielberg is trying to do the same thing in a 2-hour runtime, but it is so unbelievably chaotic. It's it's kind of, I don't want to say it's Altman-esque, but I'm still curious as to why this is such a big character ensemble drama.
Yeah, Altman-esque isn't quite the descriptor for it, but it does feel like this is Spielberg kind of trying to do an Altman. The Altman movie that it kind of demands to be compared to the most is MASH. Both because of, the war, both because of the wartime setting, and also because, MASH is on the shorter end of Altman things, and is one of his more explicit, not tar black comedies. and is trying to do at least some of the same things that Spielberg is trying to do here. But also that Spielberg seems to be he exercises an incredibly tight control over his movies' look and feel and sound and everything else. And his movies are very they're very what is the word that I'm thinking of? Like, is finically a word? They're very precisely put together in a way that Altman's films at least do not feel like they are. Because Altman, of course, is famous for things like, the overlapping dialogue and the 17 protagonists and the just kind of, and the heavy improvisation and the, just dropping people in a room and seeing what they do with each other style of filmmaking, which is not what Spielberg does. And this seems like it was kind of his attempt to really let loose on all the things that he would never let loose on otherwise. And the result is kind of beautiful in a lot of ways. Starting with what now may be my favorite opening bit in a comedy movie that I've ever seen. It used to be Hot Shots Part 2. It might still be Hot Shots Part 2, but this is definitely competing with it. This is a great Jaws parody that opens this movie.
This is a really great Jaws parody.
Because first of all, the Jaws parody features Susan Backlany, the actress who plays the first victim in Jaws, basically reprising her role and going beat for beat through the opening bit of Jaws, John Williams theme and all, until the Jaws part starts, and instead of a shark, she is then attacked by a giant submarine rising out of the water, which is the Japanese submarine that sets everything off. And of course, she's completely naked, so you've got this naked woman atop the submarine who spends about a good 7 minutes or so not being noticed by Mifune Toshiro or anybody else who is on this ship while they're talking about, launching a strike on Hollywood to destroy the morale of America, until she is finally noticed, and a young man on the submarine almost causes the entire boat to sink while he is goggling at her. I laughed really hard during this entire bit.
I was laughing, and I was cringing at how hard I was laughing at this. Speaking of the leaders on the submarine, you have Mifune Toshiro, and you also have Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee is playing a Nazi, which you get these two
that's
together.
That's almost the most typical thing about this movie.
But you get the two of them together, and I'm like, how do you not do more with them? Like, I'm kind of furious a little bit about that Spielberg doesn't.
But the time that we get with them is lovely,
and maybe that was deliberate. But I don't know. I feel like I wanted so much more.
It makes you want a spin-off, doesn't it? Just the adventures of the Mifune Toshiro and Christopher Lee submarine.
Yeah. Because
they also seem to be working with the biggest crew of idiots on this submarine.
They are working with the biggest idiots, which is noted in the scene with Slim Pickens, which, bless his heart.
Which, speaking of parodies and references.
Yeah.
What's very funny is that for this month's raspberry picking, or for, I guess, May's raspberry picking, I reviewed the movie Blonde, which is also a movie that is very built on, do you recognize this reference to, in that movie's case, this Marilyn Monroe movie, photograph, famous bit, whatever. And if you don't recognize those, you're going to lose a lot. And for some reason, it annoyed me a lot less here. Maybe because a lot of the movie reference bits still work, or at least I think they would still work even if you don't know the movie. It took me a little bit to realize that they were doing Slim Pickens and Dr. Strangelove as I was watching that scene.
Yeah.
And even before I realized it, I was still enjoying that bit because Slim Pickens is being outrageous the entire time, and it really is just delightful to watch.
Yeah.
If you do recognize that it's a bit, it becomes a little bit more fun. But even without it, those are some of the movie references, because, of course, if there was ever a cinema guy, it's Steven Spielberg. The movie reference bits are still some of the stronger sequences in 1941.
And we do get another Dr. Strangelove reference in one of the earlier sequences where they are presenting where I think it's just after the diner sequence where they're presenting one of the planes, and the bomb literally falls out of the plane.
Yes! That was also a really good one.
Yeah.
Though worth noting why the bomb literally falls out.
Yes.
It is because a also not overly gifted in the brains department army captain named, what was it, Loomis Burkhead? Which,
yes.
Talk about a name that is not anybody's name in reality, is trying to get back together with his ex, Donna Stratton, played by the delightful Nancy Allen in this. And she has a particular thing where she is very into airplanes, to the point where she can only become sexually excited if she is in an airplane and that airplane is flying. And because Captain Burkhead cannot fly planes, he's trying to replicate this by having them, like, pretend that they're flying the bomber, because he got her to come with him by promising that he could show her the cockpit of this bomber. And over the course of this, they managed to accidentally release the bomb that the bomber is carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And then it blows some things up. And again, it's a good moment and a good series of events that works really well, even if you don't recognize it as a Doctor Strangelove thing.
Right. It is delightful.
Other things that were delightful, there are a lot of big names in this. So there's Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. There we have our Blues Brothers. But my vote for MVP in this movie is Ned Beatty.
Okay.
Who plays...
Yes.
It's interesting that I assume he's like the second or third build guy because he's Ned Beatty and he's a name. But he plays a role that should sort of be an afterthought. He plays the father of the girlfriend of this kind of nerdy dancer who ends up trying to explain the story of this movie, don't bother. Forget the notion of story at all. You're just seeing a series of things happening over the course of 2 hours of movie time. Everything's just accept that and we can all move on with our lives. But one series of events has to do with this, I guess, high school age couple. So there's the girlfriend, Betty, and then there's her boyfriend, Wally, and the two of them are dancers, quite good dancers. But there's an asshole army guy played by Treat Williams, whose name he's called Stretch. I forget what his name actually is, but he is trying to steal Betty away from Wally. Yes.
Yeah.
He's trying to steal Betty away from Wally at the same time that Betty's best friend is trying very hard to get with him. And the point of me bringing up all of that right now is that Ned Beatty plays the girlfriend's dad, who does not approve of her dancer boyfriend at all, and is quite the, he's the classic, extremely jingoistic American patriot who's like, I'll do anything for the war effort kind of guy. And so, of course, he wants his daughter to be with a soldier and not this dork that she's actually with. But he is one of the first inclinations of who he is and what he's dealing with is when you discover that because I assume it was him and not the annoying little brother, is that he has built a pit in his yard and covered it with a blanket. And the idea is that if the Japanese invade, they will step on the blanket and fall in the pit. And we discover this when Betty and her friend fall in the pit due to the machinations of Betty's little brother.
Yes.
This was another one where once I kind of figured out what they were doing with this and that it was a character beat for, what was his actual name? It's Ward Douglas or something like that. That this was a character beat for Ward Douglas, Ned Beatty's character.
Yeah.
I thought it was very funny.
It's funny that I think that you're touching on something that it just hit me. This movie has really great character writing that is screaming to be in a larger movie, in a movie with a longer runtime, I think.
Which, again, Altman.
Yeah. So,
Because so
because
much of
I'm
Altman is you think you're watching something else, but because it's Altman, it's always going to turn into some kind of multi-layered, multi-perspective character study of all these people.
right.
The characters are very thinly written. I do not say that as a criticism, simply as a fact, but there is a lot brought out in all of them over the course of the movie that is not, I don't think, necessarily present in the Zemeckis Gale screenplay.
And going back to Treat Williams, who plays the corporal, the asshole corporal, he is incredibly good at just being a smarmy asshole.
He is so hateable. Oh my god.
He's so hateable, and he was in a movie several years later called Smooth Talk, directed by Choice Chopra, starring Laura Dern. So if you want to be even more convinced of his assholery, I'm sure lovely man in real life. Check out Smooth Talk as another one where he is probably even scarier in
All
that
right,
one than
we'll
he is
add to
here.
the list. Because, yeah, he's a little bit frightening in this. Like, it's a comedy, and, because of that, he kind of gets what's coming to him. But one of the very first things you see him do is be an absolute raging, threatening asshole to Wally. Because the former, or because the latter is wearing a shirt he doesn't like.
Yeah. And you have this wonderful sequence in the middle of the movie where, at the dance competition, where Wally and Betty are attempting to win this dance competition, and he's just being relentlessly followed. And it's so very well edited to the music. It's just, it's really an exhilarating sequence. And I remember Tim and I were discussing Spielberg a little bit on the Moulin Rouge podcast. And we were talking about Spielberg, specifically as it related to West Side Story. I hadn't seen this by the time we had recorded Moulin Rouge. Mm-hmm. I'm sure this sequence would have come up. There's also, so this is kind of like him wanting to do a musical so badly. It also reminded me a little bit of a couple of other things. The opening, I think it's actually a better, I don't know how much hate this is going to get me, but I think I enjoyed this more than the musical opening of Temple of Doom. I think I enjoyed this dance sequence here.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Opening of Temple of Doom.
That's a tough one because I do really like the opening of Temple of Doom.
I'm not saying this is a better movie overall than Temple of Doom.
I get it. I'm not mad. I'm thinking about this. I do love Temple of Doom a whole lot, and it's got a really good opening sequence, but I really loved the Jitterbug contest.
Yes.
I saw a number of reviews of 1941 that said the dance sequences are too long. This is incorrect. This is just an objectively wrong opinion. The dance sequence is exactly the length that it needs to be. This guy, I'm going to butcher his name, Bobby DeCicco. Bobby DeCicco can dance. And he's got that kind of like nerdy boy charisma that some very good dancers inherently possess. But they clean up at this Jitterbug competition. It's set to a wonderful John Williams piece called Swing, Swing, Swing. That's actually become a bit of a standard, I understand, outside of the movie. I'm sure we'll talk about the music in a little bit. But more than that, too, though, is that once the Jitterbug contest kind of devolves into a giant fist fight, because of course it does, because basically everything in this movie devolves into a fight, we get another fun little cinematic touchstone in that the music turns into the traditional Irish tune, The Rakes of Mallow, which anyone who has seen The Quiet Man will remember from the bar fights. And it works really well here, too. Again, I think, even if you haven't seen The Quiet Man, because it's the right kind of, like, weird, ironic, contrasting energy that you need to make this fight/dance sequence actually a good comedic set piece.
I haven't seen The Quiet Man in ages. I want to revisit
Well, when you do, listen out for The Rakes of Mallow.
getting more on cinematic references, looking more at the cast list. Like I'm remembering, he even pulls Elisha Cook Jr.
Yes.
into this. He's very, very early in the diner. Elisha Cook Jr. was a character actor in the 1940s and 50s. Probably most well known now for his role as the gunslinger in The Maltese Falcon, but also we're talking about Kubrick with Dr. Strangelove. He was one of the planners of the big heist in Stanley Kubrick's 1956 film The Killing. And this is kind of and he set in, and this is sort of a scene that's kind of similar to that. Obviously, not at all. This is not around a heist, but the fact if Spielberg is he's already pulling from Dr. Strangelove, and he said, well, I'll probably pull from The Killing as well. I might as well.
Yeah, sure.
All he needed was Sterling Hayden, but
well, we can't have everything from the sound of it. But yes, Elisha Cook Jr. shows up for this purpose, and that in itself, as you noted, is kind of a telling wink, wink, nudge, nudge to his storied career. Yeah. On that note, too, just like as should not be surprising for Spielberg, there's a permeating love of movies throughout this whole movie. Not just particular movies, but movies in general. It's like a beautiful sweeping movie. That's the one thing of his that Spielberg couldn't abandon just because he was trying to shoot a madcap comedy. We got this beautiful pan of the Grand Canyon at one point that just in itself is a great shot. And the fact that it also involves John Belushi being crazy is just a little bonus at the end there. John Belushi as a crazy fighter pilot was pretty inspired casting. I mean, like it's I guess given the Belushi years, it's a little bit of an obvious choice, but still credit for getting the little things right there. But then also there's the Dumbo scene. Did we both cry while we were watching 1941?
I think this is does this mean when I make my movies that make me cry list, does this mean I have to put 1941 on it as well? Because I'm really gonna be really pissed.
Did you cry at any part of 1941 that did not also include the baby mine sequence from Dumbo?
No.
Then I think you're okay, because what made you cry was Dumbo and not 1941.
Yeah. If you don't cry during the baby mine sequence, I was going to say even the general is crying.
That's the point, is that he steps away from all the chaos going outside to experience the movies for a little bit. And the movie that he experiences is, Dumbo, and he goes in and he feels things, and then we cut back to the nuttiness outside. And it's such a small scene, but it's a really poignant scene. Because, this is a man who has seen war, and yet he comes home and he cries at Dumbo. Adults need Disney too, but I don't know that we need Disney adults. Adults specifically need Gold and Silver Age Disney. Yeah. 1941, good year for Disney. Yep. What else do we have here? I just have a lot. Okay. The plane chase sequence. I know I'm getting in close to the end, but again, like, the movie doesn't have a coherent story, so why should I? The plane chase sequence where Belushi thinks that he's pursuing a Japanese fighter and is actually pursuing a plane containing Captain Loomis Burkhead and Donna Stratton having sex in it is quite thrilling. It is. And like, they give a good sense of the planes being close enough to these many buildings to actually do a great deal of damage to them if they go a little bit too far to the left or the right. And kudos for using more of the city as a character, because where do they end up? They end up in the La Brea tar pits. And it's Steven like Spielberg's first dinosaur movie, in a way. His first time, and they literally opened the door, and there's this, I think, brontosaurus, or is it a T-Rex? I forget, but it's a T-Rex. Is it a T-Rex? Yeah, that's right. That sounds right. I think so. It's a T-Rex or some other carnivorous dinosaur. Right. But it was like, Spielberg was parodying Jurassic Park over a decade before he actually made it. Before he knew he was going to make it. Indeed. Yeah. Oh. Can't say the man's not a visionary. No, you can't. Yeah, so they crash in the La Brea tar pits, and Belushi spends a while longer flying precariously through the streets of Los Angeles. The scene in which Burkhead procures the plane with the crazy soldier played by Warren Oates is also quite something to behold. Then there's a lot of stuff involving the Ned Beatty family that is quite amusing. So a big plot point that surrounds him is that the army has installed an anti-aircraft ballistic in his yard, which is apparently a thing that was actually done on at least one occasion. It was not done in Los Angeles. It was done to some guy in Maine, but some guy had a giant gun installed in his yard as a strategic move. But Mr. Ned Beatty, being the patriot that he is all too happy to play host to this giant gun that he has been instructed to use under no circumstances, which of course means that he's going to use it by the end of the movie. A kind of running thing in the film, too, is like jokes based on the size of military equipment. Like, it turns out that tanks and tank guns are really big. And they don't fit nicely in city streets.
No, they don't.
And if they were to run wild through city streets, a lot of things would get destroyed. And a lot of people would probably get injured. And lo and behold, this is what happens when tanks start rolling through the streets of Los Angeles.
Amazingly, I think the only person who really gets injured in this movie is somebody that's not even hit with a tank. Actually, no, that's incorrect. There's two. Three. Excuse me. There's the corporal, obviously, who loses to Wally in an unfair fight in one of my favorite bits in the whole movie.
Indeed.
He finally gets his comeuppance. There is obviously John Belushi.
He ends up covered in eggs after earlier punching Wally out for getting a very small amount of egg on his uniform.
It's like the manure bit in Back to the Future, which again, Zemeckis and Gale, they were good at connecting those things.
Yep.
And also John Belushi crashing into a building in Los Angeles, and basically almost the equivalent of being drunk off his ass in front of the general. Mm-hmm.
And doesn't he have like a giant Santa fall on him or something like that too?
Yes, he does. Which I don't know where else that shows up in Zemeckis and Gale, except for a character getting a piano dropped on their head, but that's off screen.
I mean,
yeah.
When is giant things falling on people in strategically placed ways not funny? Don't answer that. I'm sure somebody has come up with a way to make it not funny. But here it's quite amusing. And Robert Stack, who plays the general, his line reading of "that is the craziest son of a bitch I've ever seen" is gold.
And he's playing this role as the straight man of the whole thing, and that really works, because everyone else just, well, I don't know about everybody else, but it is, I feel like everybody else in comparison is so overblown that you kind of need something. It's almost like he's the Leslie Nielsen of this movie a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. Everybody else is to some degree or another completely nuts, and you need General Robert Stack as the anchor holding the movie to Earth, because otherwise it will just float away into space and we won't be able to comprehend it, even less than we already do.
Right.
In a sense, the Dumbo scene is kind of the anchor of the whole movie, because it's a nice little Spielbergian reminder of the power of movies to anchor us to the things that actually matter, which is so little of what's going on outside.
Yes. Though by the end of this movie, I was waiting for the giant banana cream pie fight. But lo and behold, I don't think that happens.
That's not unreasonable. No. If Spielberg had gotten a little bit more leeway to just be himself for these purposes, maybe, but not this time. Especially since I've got you here, can we talk about the score? of 1941 as well. Because I'm told this is quite a well-regarded Williams score, but I had never heard it discussed as such before.
Well, apparently the theme, the theme from 1941 that's most associated with John Belushi's character, is Spielberg. I'm reading it now. Spielberg has said it is his favorite of all the Williams marches, which is saying quite a lot because that includes
it's great.
The Superman. I mean, it's great, but it's also you're including the Superman march. You're including Indiana Jones in there, so that's saying quite a lot, and it feels like he's pulling from John Philip Sousa, obviously, but
Certainly.
really, yeah, and a little bit of Aaron Copland, very appropriately too. Like I was getting a little bit of flashbacks maybe to something like Billy the Kid, the Copland Billy the Kid, very appropriately though, as
Okay.
much as Copland's music has kind of, I don't want to say installed a sense of American nationalism, but like it's kind of it kind of feels, Copland almost feels like it gives America, at least white America, a sense of like musical identity, and Williams and this is around the time that he was actively writing his populist works. So Williams drawing from Copland in that way, and also from Sousa, it makes total sense. But it's,
Absolutely.
But the score is wonderful. I mean, it's Williams. Like he's known for producing works of very high caliber, and this is no exception.
Certainly. And this was when he was still actually like writing everything in his own scores too, instead of just writing the theme and then passing it off to the assistants.
No. I don't think that's true. No. I don't think that's true in Williams's case.
Is it not?
No. Williams usually doesn't. I don't think he has people write the cues. Like I think he does the cue writing himself, and he may have. And from what I understand, when orchestrators receive his sketches, the sketches are so complete, and they're so that all they're really doing is just putting it on the orchestra paper. They're not really doing a whole lot because he's essentially done their work for them by the time they get the sketches.
Oh, interesting.
So no. Williams is somebody.
Yeah, my assumption was just that he had kind of moved into that stage of his career.
No, I think he is still somebody who really labors over everything, and doesn't do mock-ups, to my understanding. Doesn't make audio demos. He's the last of us who doesn't make audio demos pre getting it to the orchestra stage. The only other one before him, I think, who just died last year, was Alf Clausen, who had been the composer for The Simpsons for 27 years, and he didn't have time to do the mock-ups, but he would still write everything by hand.
No, of
and
course.
He had a team of orchestrators helping him, but I think he also mostly wrote the cues by himself for The Simpsons, but there was a little bit of controversy there. I don't want to go into that, even though I know, because I only know a little bit of the behind the scenes of what got him fired from The Simpsons. But in the case of Williams, no, he's somebody who still works pencil, paper, and piano, and writes all of his themes and writes all of his cues, and basically, and he may orchestrate them or he may give them to orchestrators, but the work is so done by the time it gets to the orchestrator that
Okay, then I stand corrected on that matter.
No,
Yeah,
but for obviously more.
Go ahead.
Obviously for other composers, Hans Zimmer, for example, and a lot of the people, they'll have what are known as basically assistants as coming on as additional music composers. So like writing the themes, and then they may write a lot of the cues, but because the schedule is so hectic, generally you have a team working to arrange the material as needed throughout the film. But I wouldn't. But in the case of Williams, no, I wouldn't say he's handing it off to anybody. It's generally
Okay,
yeah,
good for him.
and he's still kicking all of our butts. As was Morricone,
Well,
right up until Morricone died about 6 years ago.
yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be the case until John Williams dies, would be my guess. As far as 1941 goes, I think my personal favorite Williams bit may, in fact, be the first one, like the one that happens over the opening crawl, where I definitely had a second of, come on, Spielberg, you've already done things with crawls, I'm pretty sure, at this point. Or at the very least, I know you've seen Star Wars, directed by your buddy George Lucas. You know how an opening crawl is supposed to work, and this is not it. But then this ultra-dramatic, horn and percussion-heavy Williams piece starts up, and now I'm suddenly in the mood for the crazy war picture that he's setting us up to expect at that moment.
And then he takes us back to...
And then we, of course, get the little sampler from Jaws, and that's great.
And I think I mentioned this to you. I think it's... I think I like it more than when Airplane did Jaws, which... When Airplane...
I think I do, too.
When Airplane did it, it was really funny. But I think this is even funnier.
This comes from such an this comes from such an obvious place of love. Right. Like Jaws was one of the movies that made Spielberg, and here he is making fun of it, and I love it. Yeah, so it's great. I did love the attack on the Ferris wheel towards the end. I'm not 100% sure what the guys on the Ferris wheel were doing in the movie, but, we're trying to do Altman, so we need more characters. So there they are. We got two guys on a Ferris wheel. Defending Hollywood.
We got John Candy in this as well.
Yes, we do. Oh, we got two guys and a ventriloquist dummy on a Ferris wheel.
That's true. And apparently we also have Patti LuPone in this. I don't know what she's doing.
We do. She's not in it for very long. This was also Mickey Rourke's debut movie, I understand. Oh. He plays a guy named Reese, apparently. I do not remember a Reese, but I will trust the internet that a guy named Reese was in it and that he was played by Mickey Rourke.
I keep thinking that Mickey Rourke was also in The Fox and the Hound, but no, that was Mickey Rooney.
Yep, that was the other Mickey. Yeah. Precisely. Yeah, I do also love when Ned Beatty knocks his own house off the hill into the ocean. Because he has, this is the very end of the movie, he has completely destroyed his own house because he did not know which way to point the anti-aircraft missile gun, and shot it through his own house. And then his house was also obliterated generally in the attack on Los Angeles. And so there is a shell of his house remaining. As the army is getting ready to pack up and leave the little encampment outside of his house where all of the various movie protagonists have gathered for the movie's finale, he gives this very faux inspiring speech about how, whatever happens, we're not gonna, we are patriotic Americans and we're not gonna let those dastardly Japanese ruin our Christmas. And he goes to hang a Christmas wreath on his door, and in doing so, detaches the door from the remainder of the house and knocks the house into the ocean.
And I feel like at that point, his wife, played by Lorraine Gary, who plays Roy Scheider's wife in Jaws, is about to have a heart attack. Because she's on the verge of having a heart attack all throughout the movie, and...
Rightly so,
and rightly so.
How everybody in her family is acting.
Yeah.
I also do love that in the closing credits, when they're going through all the stars, what they have is every single person who starred in the movie screaming in different ways.
Yes. My goodness.
Yeah, it's fun. Have I missed anything? Is there anything we need to talk about that we haven't brought up yet?
I think we touched a little bit on Mifune Toshiro and Christopher Lee. And
oh, yes.
I don't know if we've touched on them enough.
I mean, they are definitely a delight to watch. It's funny. I feel like I've only ever seen Mifune in bad movies. because the other thing that I can remember having seen him in at this point is Inchon, which is a very bad movie and also a war movie.
So you haven't seen a lot of the Kurosawa epics then?
I've seen some of them, but unfortunately, because of what I have done to myself, they are not the things that I think of when I think of Mifune Toshiro. Instead, I think of terrible American war movies. I'm so sorry. But here, my understanding is that he begged Spielberg to let him personally whip the submarine extras into shape as well, because he was so disgusted with how lazy and lackadaisical they were about being Japanese officers on a war submarine. And so what you see on those scenes is largely under Mifune's direction.
That makes sense.
So that is perhaps worth pointing out. Thank you, uncredited assistant director Mifune Toshiro. Yeah. I mean, they're great. Like, you know, when Christopher Lee shows up playing a Nazi, you know it's going to be fun.
Yes.
Or terrifying. In this case, it's fun.
Yeah.
He's especially fun when set alongside Slim Pickens.
Everything keeps coming back to Slim Pickens, and
Everything does keep coming back to Slim Pickens. He's only in the movie for about, 8 minutes? But they are among the more memorable 8 minutes of the movie.
And among other things, among stuffing his shoes in the toilet, and among...
Yep.
And I always love those moments in movies where characters will climb onto a ceiling and like people who are going to be attacking come into the room, and they look up and there somebody is, and then it's like it's such a cliche, but it's one of my favorite cliches.
It's a visual gag that doesn't get old, though.
It doesn't.
It will never not be funny.
It will never not be funny. And there's a moment like that a little bit in Grand Budapest Hotel, of all things, where in the prison where a bunch of officers are playing cards as Gustav and his comrades are escaping, and they look up and they see the comrades digging a hole, and one of them just takes a knife and goes down, and it's like the whole fight scene is shot with only looking at, but the focus is on Gustav and his comrades watching, so you don't see. That's another favorite cliche of mine, and it reminded me of that a little bit. I don't know why.
That's a good thing to be reminded of.
It's a good thing to be reminded of.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm happy at this point, if you're happy. Like, Spielberg really did try to do Altman. Like, the other thing that I could say is Spielberg tried to do Stanley Kramer doing It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. But I would rather say that Spielberg tried to do Altman. Like, this was Spielberg going nuts, which is not a thing he usually does. Like, he's very careful and almost, like, precious sometimes about the way that he puts his movies together. And it's kind of nice to just see him, like, you know, take a few bong hits and go.
You know, it's weird because I can't name another movie where he's not precious. I can't name another movie of his where it's like even the Jurassic Park movies that he directed still feel.
Jurassic Park is so precious.
Yeah.
Like, everything leading up to the time you see that first brontosaurus, everything is, there is not a note out of place there.
But even during things like the Stampede in Jurassic Park, like, that is chaos, but that feels like very controlled chaos in a way that
it's nothing like this where you feel like something that is not meant to fall down might actually fall down at any moment.
Right. And it's not that he doesn't give a shit. It's I just want to have people have a blast, and I just want people to go, what the hell just happened afterwards? And for a director who is so precise and is so meticulous, and this also is meticulous in its own way. Like, it's to see that is kind of a little bit. It's nice to see that. I I don't know what the hell is holding this together. I really don't, if anything.
I think it might be Dumbo.
It might be Dumbo.
Which is not the worst thing to be holding your movie together.
Yeah.
Okay, so, moment of truth. I know you don't know what you thought about this movie yet, but do you have any idea what I actually thought about this movie?
So, I am guilty of giving you a good movie in the past with In a Lonely Place. And I was hoping that I was going to change that up.
Thanks for that.
I was hoping that I was going to change that up with this. I was hoping. And now I feel like I've been bamboozled. I feel like I've been Smeckledorfed. That's not even a word, and people will agree
So
with
is that a yes, I actually liked this?
I believe so.
All right. Well, I don't know how well you can see it, but...
I see it.
Yes, so my honest rating for this one would be a 2.5. I waffled between 2.5 and 3 on this one as well, because sometimes I do feel like being nice, and I do honestly have much warmer feelings towards the movie as a whole than the 2.5 would indicate all by itself. But there's one, almost movie-killing problem, and that's that it is very long. Objectively, it's not that long. The runtime does come in under 2 hours. But for a slapstick comedy, that's very long.
Right.
And for this slapstick comedy in particular, there was one point while I was watching it that I suddenly started craving popcorn. And then I thought, but I think the movie's almost over, so maybe it's not worth it to make popcorn. And then I paused it to see how much I had left in the movie, and I said out loud to the empty room, "You've got to be fucking kidding me," because there were 35 minutes left in the movie.
It just reminded me that Duck Soup is 64 minutes. And that is...
Uh-huh.
And Duck Soup is flawless. And no slapstick comedy should be longer than Duck Soup.
Nope.
And it's amazing.
They don't need to be.
It's amazing that in our entire time talking about this, the Marx Brothers has not come up at all. But I don't know that...
It's true. I didn't think much about the Marx Brothers.
No.
Maybe because I was already so inclined to think about Robert Altman very early on that the Marx Brothers just kind of got shoved sideways any way that I would have been thinking about them.
Right, because the gags in the Marx Brothers are so very meticulous, but they're so precise in terms of editing, which is. I don't want to say this isn't precise, but it doesn't feel Marx Brothers-esque to me, and so I hesitated in bringing up Duck Soup at all.
Yeah, I also don't think the editing is that precise in this one. There were a few scenes where I thought it was actively harmed by the editing, just because the pacing was not snappy enough to create the mood that I thought Spielberg was going for. Pretty much all of my serious problems with it boiled down to it is too damn long. And unfortunately, I think that for a slapstick comedy, or at least a wannabe slapstick comedy, that's a very serious problem. And it kept me from finding it as funny as I would have liked to. But it's very possible that I will raise that to 3 stars in the not too distant future. Or it's possible that it will go down to 2 stars. Like you, I'm kind of still figuring out my feelings on this movie. I definitely don't think that it has deserved all of the hate that it has gotten over the years. And I think that it is due for a little bit of reconsideration that I'm not sure that it has gotten.
Yeah, it's certainly not his worst movie. I don't know if it's... I mean, there are certainly movies of his that I dislike more, but that are more structurally sound than this. Hook, for example, is a structurally sound movie, or The Terminal is a structurally sound movie. But I would watch this 10 times before I saw either of those 2 movies again. I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah, I think that might be the case. I would certainly watch this again before I watched Hook again, and I might watch this again before I watched The Terminal again.
Probably same.
In fact, let's go ahead and increase that to definitely. I would watch this before I watched The Terminal again.
I do not have positive feelings about The Terminal.
And I would also watch it again before Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So yeah, does not deserve reputation as the single bad Spielberg.
I don't even know if it's bad. I think it's
Yeah,
I think it's too much.
I'm not sure. I don't know how good this movie is.
For me, it's too much of an interesting failed experiment that is a blast to be bad.
That's the thing. It is an interesting failure, and I am on record as saying I wish that more movies were interesting failures. So on that criterion alone, I feel like I kind of have to come down positive on it. You know what? Let's go ahead and up it to 3, at least for the time being. 3 stars. 3 stars. Why not?
Okay.
All right. Well, Zev, I probably never would have watched this had you not made me, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in the thank you column. My life is a little bit more interesting for having experienced 1979's 1941.
And even more so that you have still not seen Raiders. Like that, we need to keep this.
And I've still not seen Raiders of the Lost Ark.
We need to keep this bit going.
Yes, we'll see how long we can take this before somebody somewhere sits me down in front of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And that's
but for the time being,
yeah, and that's a top 15 movie for me. So
I understand it's very good. It's just never happened. It's just one of those. We've all got one. That one's mine.
I mean, for me, for a while, it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Up until very recently.
I was going to say, the fact that you put that in the past tense, though, indicates that has changed fairly recently.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a tonal shift from anything that we have been talking about in this episode.
It's going to be a long time before my second viewing of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is not a knock on the movie at all. I want to be clear. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre
I was going to say, that's a top 15 movie for me.
It's probably perfect, but I don't want to watch it again for a long time.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
The fact that it's perfect at what it's doing does not mean that you necessarily want to watch it do that again.
Right.
Right after you see it the first time.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this has been a delightful conversation about a delightful question mark movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You'll have to let me know if your thoughts change after you get the Blu-ray.
Well, the Blu-ray should be... Well, I just ordered the Blu-ray, so we shall see. Maybe I'll watch it again when it's here. I don't know. I am looking forward to just going, what the fuck was this again?
Yeah, that's fair. This also feels like the sort of movie that would reward repeat viewings because there's so much going on that I'm positive we both missed stuff the first time that we saw it. So maybe there will be even more to discuss upon a second viewing, though I don't know when or if that will be happening for me.
If I become the 1941 apologist in my life, then, and making my friends sit down and watch it is my life goal.
All right, there are worse things you could be in life.
There are.
Well, thank you, Zev. Thank you, everybody out there in listener land. This has been another delightful outing with great movies on Your Movie Rocks. Be sure to catch the rest of the episodes of the podcast this month, and we will see you again in July. Bye.